Following is a true story of how myself and high school girlfriend survived an encounter with an absolute psychopath while hitchhiking. Couple things here. Change the name of that high school girlfriend. I will be referring to her as Jane in this video, and I will be referring to the perpetrator as Leo for the simple reason that I'd never want this human being to know that I had told a story about him in the event he's out of jail and wandering the country. Man was nuts. Third thing is I did create some images to help move the story along, so hopefully you figure that out. So anyway, the year's 1989, and we had graduated high school, took our funds that we had received from graduation, at our graduation parties, and packed up, bought all the gear and learned ourselves as well as we could about the Appalachian Trail and Maine specifically, and jumped on a Greyhound bus on the 2nd of July to head out to fulfill this dream. No intent of ever completing the Appalachian Trail. Our goal was to get out there and, at the bare minimum, complete the 100-mile wilderness and then see where the adventure was going to lead us. And we did. There's stories in that as well. But after completing the 100-mile wilderness, we were low on funds and needed to find work. On the trail, we had heard that blueberry picking can be a quick source of income while you're out there. We soon realized that's not the cash cow that we were led to believe. It was horrible. It was a bad season for blueberries. They were literally falling through the rake as we pull them out, pull the blueberries up. They'd fall through. It was horrible. Everything was bad. So we bailed on that after a few days and began heading towards Bar Harbor. And the plan there was to get summer job doing whatever. We didn't know if we were going to be waiting tables or working on a lobster boat. So we began our hitchhiking down from the interior out towards the coast, and then we were going to be heading south. Well, the experiences hitchhiking were amazing. One amazing, nice human being after another. All walks of life, all makes, models, and varying degrees of reliability of vehicles. And everything was just fantastic. We had one old lady pull over, bring us back to her house, make us homemade blueberry pancakes, and tell stories for a bit, and then she loaded us back in her rig, drove us another 15 miles down the road just to help us out, and away she went. And we had that, time and again, people dropping off fast food and fruit and water. It was amazing. So our spidey senses, if you will, may have been lessened a little bit. We were becoming a little too embracing of all walks of life. Radar went down anyway. So we got dropped off in rural Maine, and we get dropped off at this general store, and we go in, grab our goods snacks and water and whatnot, come back out to continue hitchhiking. Well, the general store is just off of this road that's running north and south, and it's on the east side of the road. Well, also on the east side of the road is a road that travels east and west. And that east-west road runs into like a T of the road that we're traveling south on. So we're hanging out there by the stop sign, and this van pulls up coming from the east. Pulls up, it's a early 80s kind of luxury van, if you will. It has miles on it, certainly. It's beat up a little bit, beyond a little bit, but whatever. None of that was over alarming. However, the guy pulls up and kind of motions for us to come over to the driver's side. So we did, and we're chatting with him through the window. He's asking, what's your story? What's going on? So we, being young and naive and no fear and nothing but amazing encounters, we, spilled the beans. Hey, this is what we're planning on doing. We're getting down the road a piece tonight, setting up camp somewhere, and then, continuing on to Bar Harbor in the morning. and he says, hey, I've got a camper on my property. You guys are more than welcome. All yours. Do with it what you will. I'll stay out of your hair. Don't worry about a thing. And then tomorrow morning, I can give you a ride a little closer to Bar Harbor. It's perfect. This is going to be amazing. We don't have to worry about, beating the sun going down and trying to set up camp in the dark somewhere down the road. And so I walk around around the front of the vehicle, and Jane walks around the back of the vehicle, and I open the sliding door and crawl in. And as I'm crawling in, or after I crawl in, I'm sitting there kind of waiting for Jane to get in. And Leo is in the driver's seat, and he's doing this, looking in the rearview mirror and then looking out the side mirror and looking in the rearview mirror and out the side mirror. And so I turn around and I'm looking out the back window, and a sheriff's car has pulled up, and the sheriff is now out of the car speaking with Jane. And this goes on for 60 seconds, 90 seconds maybe. He said, that man has been in and out of mental institutions, and I would never let my own daughter get into that van. She then takes that information with her, proceeds to walk around the side of the van and get in. So, full on horror story, bad decision, right? I mean, just why did you do that? Don't get in the van. But she did. And as she's getting in, she gives, crawling through the side door, she's looking at me like, oh shit, this is bad. And I'm wondering, giving her a questioning look, trying to communicate without saying any words, because for some reason we thought it, important not to offend a complete stranger that was on his way to, with plans to murder us. And so she gets in, and Leo says, what did he have to say? And she just said, a lot. And Leo said, oh, they always do. And, I remember even at the time thinking, they always do. Who always does? That sheriff or law enforcement in general, or it's like, well, this is so scary. Well, he makes a U-turn on the gravel road. So he was heading west and makes a U-turn, and now we're heading east. Down the gravel road we go. Shadows are getting long over the road. The trees are encompassing, both sides of this gravel road. And it goes on for too long, and there's a clearing all this, suddenly on the left side of the road, and he points out and said, that's my parents' place up on the hill. And it was this creepy, large, haunted-looking house. It was sat up on this hill with, the obligatory abandoned vehicles around the yard, and scary if you were just passing. Not scary, but, eye-catching and conversation-worthy if you happen to just be driving by. Horrifying knowing what we were now experiencing at this moment. And I'm still wondering, what did the sheriff tell Jane or say to Jane? So he points up there, and that's my that's my parents' house. And he goes, theirs is a lot nicer than mine. Kind of like, God, I wished I lived there. And we're looking at each other horrified, but also can see the humor in the statement. It was like, that place is a dump, and now you're saying that that's the place it was just like, whatever, bizarre. So we continue down the road about another mile and a half, and he pulls up this hill to his house, and so pulls off this driveway up this small incline, and this is where his shack is at. And it's very, very run down, and there is everything you can imagine in the yard itself. I mean, snowmobiles set up on on logs everywhere, pallets, tarps covering God knows what. I mean, it was wild, complete disarray. And he's like, the camper's just down on the other side of the hill. And he begins to walk us down there. And as he's walking us down, he's like, I've got to go to an AA meeting, so I'm going to be gone for a while. But you guys go ahead and make yourselves at home while you're here. My brother is here with his girlfriend, so don't let that alarm you. It's like, oh, we've got plenty to be alarmed about right now. Yes, that is one more piece of the alarm puzzle, but yeah, thanks for the heads up, Leo. So we get down to the camper, and it's not like a pull behind camper. It's one of those slide in campers that you put in the back of a pickup, and it's just sitting on the ground, so it's not elevated at all. It's just one of those slide ins sitting on the ground, grass growing all around it. And we get down there, and he opens the door, kind of a welcome to your living quarters for the evening. And littered on the inside of the camper were these nude images torn out of magazines all over, disgusting images. And again, it's this power move. It felt like it just felt like, what are you going to do about it? And thankfully we were just, I don't know, we had our wits about us, even though we'd made some dumb decisions to get to this point. And we're like, okay, yeah, cool, this will work out great. And just kind of trying to act like we weren't startled, trying to, the gallery of horror movies and the mistakes I recall them making in the movies. I'm like, okay, how would, any victim, how would have they survived the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Number one, don't panic. Number one, don't get in the van, I suppose. So he's, make yourself at home. He walks up the hill, gets in the van, and down the road he goes. So immediately I'm like, Jane, what was said? She, explained to me that he had, in fact, told her that there's no way in hell that he would let his daughter get into that van because this guy's been in and out of mental institutions. So it was time to kick it in high gear. It was like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here now. And so cinched down the backpacks, up the hill, past his house, down and began running our asses off down this gravel road into the setting sun. I mean, the sun's setting. It's just gotten darker, obviously. And finally find ourselves past the parents' place on the right side. Felt like a milestone. Felt like we were getting out of this dark fog that we had somehow become enveloped in. And shortly after passing the parents' place, this car is coming up behind us. We can hear it, of course, first. And we're thinking, we'll take any ride, just get us out of here. Let's get to the main highway. Well, this vehicle pulls up. It's a man and a girl or a young woman. And he said, Leo said you were spending the night. Where are you going? Some line of bullshit just somehow formed in my brain, and I began explaining that we had a family reunion that we had to attend to, that we had forgot about because we'd been on the trail, we'd been backpacking and hitchhiking, lost track of time, and that we in fact just needed to get to this family reunion. Oh, he bought it, thankfully. And if not, maybe not bought it, but he didn't argue it. So we climbed into the rig and headed back now towards that T in the road. And I'm wondering how we're going to navigate this, and thought the best thing that we could do is to separate ourselves from these two in the car. So requested that we pull over at the general store, and that we needed to get something. I needed to get something personally. The plan was then to get out of the car, get into the store, and chat with Jane to, come up with some sort of plan. Because if he's bringing us to our family reunion, what was our plan here? How are we going to get out of this? Drop us off in some random stranger's driveway and run into another nightmare. So, unfortunately for us, he and the girlfriend get out of the vehicle and follow us into the store. So now it's like, what are we going to do? We don't have expendable income. We don't have cash laying around that we can just piss away on any sort of random, items. And so, because I was already panicked and able to come up with the first bullshit story about the family reunion, I thought, well, I just need to think of something that I know the store's not going to have, so we don't have to spend the money and it doesn't look like we just came in here for nothing. And it was at that point, they're following us. Leo's brother and the girlfriend are following us throughout the store, up and down the 2 or 3 aisles that are in the store. So I just walked up to the cashier and I said, would you happen to have any kiwi fruit? To which she looked at me like I had lost my mind, and she's like, no, we don't have kiwi fruit. Almost looking like she didn't know what kiwi fruit was. Thankfully, Jane kind of knew what I was doing. We knew each other well, so it's, this would be something that I would do. And so she didn't look startled by the request, like, oh yeah, him and his kiwi fruit is what it is. And we proceeded to just go back, get in the vehicle, and get to the T. He hangs a left, and now we're heading south. So at least we're heading towards where we need to go, that being Bar Harbor. 100 yards onto that highway, and the girlfriend reaches into the glove box and pulls out a gun. And, has it in her hand and looks back behind us and says, we always keep this in here just in case. And it's like, well, that's not something that seems like we needed to know, unless this is a just in case moment. It's just, so there again, it's like, awesome, cool gun. Thanks for the heads up. And she put it back. She put the gun back, but now there again, it's that power dynamic, that it seemed like they were trying to foster. So we get into Millbridge, and he's like, where does your aunt live? Accusatory almost. And I'm like, you know what? You don't need to drop us off there. Drop us off at the laundromat. We can't go there looking like this. We're filthy. We're going to put on, get our clothes clean, change into some clean clothes, and then we'll meet up with them. And so thankfully he did. He dropped us off at the laundromat, and said, Leo's going to be disappointed. So I was like, oh, tell Leo we're sorry. Apologizing to some psychopath that had plans on murdering us. I'm certain of it. But he drives away, and at this point we think the story's over. It wasn't. But we thought, okay, we're out of the woods. It's fine. Recounting our, the entirety of the episode, replaying the whole thing over and over again, while our clothes are getting cleaned to go to the family reunion. After getting the laundry done, we ended up just hiking down the road. I don't know, half mile, 3/4 of a mile down. There was a camping area that we ended up finding on a map. Went down there, set up camp. It's dark. There's no one in camp. So we set up camp, and minus the sound of some raccoons wandering around and mice running around, it was a relatively uneventful night. The following morning, however, things change. So I was up first, and I heard a vehicle pull in and heard 2 doors shut. Jane was still fast asleep, and I was thinking, you know what, there's no way they're still looking for us. There's no way they would have found us. So I'm assuming it's a park ranger, just because we came in late at night. Maybe they're here to collect fees or whatever. And all of a sudden there's knocking, this gentle tapping on the fabric of the tent. And Jane pops up out of her sleep to that sound, wide-eyed and scared to death. And I'm nervous. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. And so I unzip the tent, and there stand Leo, his brother, and the girlfriend. And I'm just having these, back to the horror stories, it's always safest during the day, so you think, that's what makes me think of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where, you think everything's fine during the day, and it's like there's some of the most horrific scenes in that movie, or terrifying scenes, are the ones that happen during the day. And so that's running through my head. It's like, what is going on? How are these people? They thought they dropped us off to go literally to attend a family reunion last night, and now they're checking up on us. And so Leo, first thing he says in a super accusatory manner, he said, "I thought you were going to a family reunion last night." And he said, "When I got back home and you weren't there, I didn't know what to do." So I immediately just jumped into defense mode and started spinning this tale that was piggybacking off of the entirety of this fictitious family reunion, and look at a non-existent watch on my arm, and I'm like, yeah, I know we screwed up last night. The dates, we've all been messed up, as far as with the backpacking and hitchhiking and different time zones and all this stuff. It's actually, we're meeting for the family reunion this morning. I'm meeting my aunt. Oh boy, I'll be goddamn. It's 45 minutes from now. We're meeting her at the diner here in town, and then we're all getting together with the rest of the relatives. And that was enough to suffice. I think there might have been just enough concern that there might have been some truth to the story, that we could have been identified as missing, or I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe I'm giving myself too much credit for coming up for the creative story. But regardless, that was the last we saw of them. There was no goodbyes. There was nothing. It was just kind of this turn around and walk away back to the van, and away they went. We proceeded to hitchhike all over the northeast. I mean, all through Maine, up into Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. No issues whatsoever. A bunch of wonderful experiences. We had issues elsewhere in the country, but I'll save that for another day. So thanks for listening. If you have any wild hitchhiking stories, I'd love to hear them. And if you've done it recently, I'm actually flirting with the idea of getting out there and doing it, just because, why not? I'm older now. Could be kind of a interesting experience to revisit the past, I guess, an opportunity for that. So thanks again. Have a good day. See you.